Okay, good afternoon, everybody. In the interest of time, and since we have a majority of speakers non-Turkish on our panel, except for myself, we will conduct this in English. But there are also some Arabic speakers on the panel who may prefer to speak Arabic. We will see. I'd like to introduce the panel first before we start. My name is, to start with myself, my name is Murat Bayar. I am the Undersecretary for Defense Industry in Turkish Defense Ministry. I am responsible for defense procurement for Turkish Armed Forces and supporting development of the Turkish defense industry. That's what I do in the government. On my right, we have a very distinguished guest from Malaysia. His Excellency Datuk Latif is Deputy Defense Minister of Malaysia. We are very honored to have you here, sir. Welcome. And if I continue in that direction, we have a very good friend, Saif Al-Hajeri. He's the CEO of Tawazun Group from United Arab Emirates. A very good friend, frequent visitor of Turkey. We have very good partnership with Saif and the Tawazun Group overall. We have, again, in that direction, General Aldwin White. He's former British Army General, Special Operations, and also served in the Omani Armed Forces, again, as the Chief of Special Operations. And last, we have from Algeria, Mr. Arslan Shkai. He is the head of Nord-Sud Ventures, very global personality to his description. He has a long CV, which I will, with his permission, skip for the moment, but he has great experiences. To my left, and using these things are not easy, is General Mohammed Khalifa Al-Kuwari from Qatar. Again, a very distinguished visitor from the Qatari Armed Forces. We have, lastly, actually, okay, we have all the panel members here. Next is, again, a general from the Armed Forces of Egypt, Cairo, General Mohammed Al-Kafas. He's the advisor to Armament Authority in Egypt. And lastly, we have the Professor Alexander Sotnichenko. He is from St. Petersburg, Foreign Affairs, International Relations Professor. So the topic of this panel is defense and security, but more specifically, as to the expertise of our panel members, we will talk about regional defense industry partnership. That is our theme. And I can maybe start a few words here. The panel members represent some of the countries which have a very high degree, high level of defense spending in their geographies, and with very experienced armed forces. Many of them I know very closely. And many of these countries also, Malaysia, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, they have good industrial capabilities as well in defense industry. So the topic that we will be discussing here is how can we develop our defense industry partnership? How can we develop joint programs for our armed forces? How can we partner also in defense procurement? So those are some of the discussions we will be having. From the Turkish point of view, this is an area which we promote very significantly in terms of a regional partnership. We do have several programs, joint programs with each of the panel members' countries here. And this is an area which we believe can increase the effectiveness of our budgets, can increase the effectiveness of the capabilities we deliver to each of the country's armed forces. And if you look at the budgets, you can see that there is a significant amount of funding allocated in each of our country's budgets in this area. And therefore, in the long term, if we want to increase the local content, the share of our own industries in the spending, we need to work more closely in close partnership and supporting each other. Of course, this is something that requires a significant cooperation in many areas, not only in defense ministries and armed forces, but also between the industries, and also between our universities and research organizations. So this is a broader topic. And from our perspective, from the Turkish government perspective, we do support the creation of this partnership significantly, and we look forward to some success stories for delivering, as I said, good capabilities to our armed forces with using our own industries. So with this introduction, if he allows me, I'd like to pass the first word to our only politician on the panel to start. Dr. Latif, if he's very kind, he can start with the first comments. We will go around the panel and hopefully finish in time. Please, sir.
Oh, okay. First and foremost, let me express our government, Malaysian government, gratitude to our Turkish government for inviting me in this very auspicious summit. That's number one. Number two, this is my fourth visit to the city of Istanbul. And you never being bored, or you can never be lonely when you are in Istanbul. Being a politician, they used to say when one said yes, it means maybe. When politicians say maybe, it means no. But when they say no, you are no more politician. Okay. As far as Malaysia is concerned, we cannot detach ourselves from talking about defense and security with regard to the history. We faced the communist insurgency the day when we got independence, until the Communist Party of Malaysia surrender their guns and swear to the sovereignty of Malaysia in 1989. That's number one. We don't have any conflict at all with our neighbors. You can choose your friend, but you cannot choose your neighbors. We have a policy whereby we advocate prosper the neighbor. Should there be any problem, we always have the platform of ASEAN consisting of 10 countries where we respect each other, we agree to be disagree. It is economics, political cooperation, and also socio-cultural. Only in 2006, we advocate the ASEAN Defense Minister Forum, where the 10 nations, all the ASEAN defense ministers sit down, and we add other members, ASEAN +3, like Korea, like Japan, and China. So you were talking about the procurement is always depend on the ability for us to harness the policy of nation defense. That means to be self-reliant and also self-dependent. We are maritime state. We have 1,800 nautical miles. That's a reason why for the past 10 years, we bought 2 submarines to safeguard our sovereignty, our oil and gas. So, as far as procurement is concerned, there is no, there's always light at the end of the tunnel for us to collaborate. I'll give you an example. When EADS advocate the A400 program, which actually need a very hefty investment, we are one of the 10 countries to join the wagon. See? We have started it, but now it's just a matter of how to put things right at various angles, so that at the end of the day, any joint procurement can be done. And you must bear in mind that ASEAN is not a defense pact like Europe or like NATO. That is, some people say it a difficulty, some say it as an opportunity. But since 2010, there was a move by Malaysia to put up a joint collaboration in defense industry. And it is accepted because at one time, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 22 billion US dollar is spent on defense and security procurement within the 580 million population of ASEAN. I think I will stop that.
Thank you, sir. You're just on time. I noted your words about achieving self-reliance in defense industry and also collaboration in defense industry. As you all know, we have a good collaboration project with Malaysia. We have one of our armored vehicle companies jointly with Malaysian industry manufacturing armored vehicles for Malaysian Army. So with that, maybe we can go to the Gulf region, an important industrialist, I would say, and businessman, Mr. Saif Al-Hajeri, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bai. Actually, in 2007, we started Tawazun, but that was not the beginning of our industry in the UAE. The UAE started the offset program, which is now managed by Tawazun Council, in 1992, after the second Gulf War. And we've seen, and the result behind it, because of the large spending in military equipment just before the second Gulf War. The program was focusing in defense procurement cooperation, encouraging companies to do business in the UAE related to the defense procurement. But we realized later on that we need to establish a government entity as a holding company to manage or invest in with these companies, and try to also select the right criteria and the right field for that investment, and also to partner with the private sector and bring the private sector, whether the small and medium companies, also to the field of industrial manufacturing. And also, once, in 2007, we started Tawazun. Companies start to also acquire the factories that the army used to manage, and started to bring also the right partners from the international market. The main focus was to start developing local capabilities, developing local IP rights, and in the same time provide the right resources, human resources. And the mission was to create or to manufacture UAE product by UAE hands. And that was the main intention, and that is our core business in Tawazun, to develop the right local resources that can understand these technologies and to take it to the also international market. Because we believe, no matter what, UAE is a large spender when it comes to military procurement, but we believe, no matter what we do in factories, we are looking at international market. We want to produce, to export to the GCC countries, Middle East, and also go beyond to the international market. We started in 2004 with just a small project called Caracal. It is our first pistol project. But from there, Caracal have evolved to, rifles, sniper rifles, and different things. We are in the business of ammunition, small and large. We're in the aerospace. We have a Nimr, which is, a UAE manufactured 4x4 and 6x6. But also, we're looking around for international partnership. We're investing in different countries. We have bought some company in Germany. Today, we are talking to at least 3-4 Turkish companies for joint manufacturing, joint cooperation in some of the projects. We also went all the way and we created 2 JVs with Algeria government to manufacture both Caracal, the pistol, and different rifle products, and also Nimr in Algeria. So we're going beyond the UAE. The last deal we've signed with Denel for smart kit for air bombs, and that is with Denel of South Africa. But all the manufacturing and all the IP will be in the UAE. We will be doing, even, South African, we will be buying this product from the UAE. It is very interesting field to be in. So many things to do, and you cannot do it alone. You have to find the right partner. You have to find the partner that can understand you, and who shares the same vision, who can, work with you, train your people, and think about the future together. Exciting field, and I think we'll be doing more international deals with different countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saif. You talked about your experience actually for the past 20 years now, almost, since 1992, beginning with the Offset Group, developing partnerships internationally. But also transferring technology to UAE, creating some ventures. And I personally visited some of them, so they do have some success stories actually in UAE to see. Maybe I can go straight to General Wei, who has experience both in Europe and the Gulf. So maybe he can give us a perspective from that regard. Please, sir.
Good evening. I may strike a slightly different note here because I don't come from a procurement or industrial background, but I come more from an operational background in soldiering and security. And I'd probably like to just trace really quickly the picture as I see it and maybe where, as it were, the use of force is going. In the last 2 decades, we have seen some fairly seismic shifts at all levels, political, economic, etc. I just wonder in the back of my mind whether there have been the matching institutional shifts in the defense and security sector. And as I see it, there's a shift from defense towards security. And security actually is the primary issue. There are obviously nations with aspirations to produce their own equipment. But there are a few nations, I think, out of the great number that we've got, who perhaps have the budgets nowadays or the desire to spend the amounts of money that were spent on defense. Secondly, I think where we're beginning to move is away from, obviously, the use of conventional warfare, conventional weaponry in that. It's used in part in high intensity operations. But the challenges to me for the 21st century and the challenges to security and stability come from perhaps other areas. I'm sure there's been much talk over the last couple of days about the socio-economic challenge of burgeoning young populations of work, of the aspirations of the youth, and all the efforts to resolve that through economic development, through economic diversification. But in that transition, there will be upheaval. And that upheaval, to my mind, therefore requires a focus on subtler methods of internal security. So I put internal security as a very, very high threat, because that can affect the body politic. Another area that comes through clearly to me, but that's securing the investments people are making, and some major investments in infrastructure, in the tools that will actually achieve some of that economic diversity and growth. And if those aren't secured, then you can find a hole in your strategy. Maybe that begins to center around national infrastructure, national resources, and things like that. Protecting the social fabric of your society, protecting it in a world of great competition, a world of economic migration, in a world where there is a huge amount of trafficking, be it trafficking of drugs, people, illegal goods, you name it, weapons, terrorists, etc. It all mixes up. So another strand that comes out strongly to me is the question of border security, not border control necessarily, but border security, maritime security. And then I'd lump together two threats, which I think are possibly present dangers. But one of them related to CBRN, excuse my voice, to the chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear threat, but related to that, major industrial accidents. Industries get more complex, they're growing faster. I've seen them in parts of the world where regulation isn't that great, and where the matching civil defense gets nowhere near the potential for the disasters that may occur. And then lastly, looking at civil defense in the context of natural disasters as we move towards climate change, which seem to occur more and more frequently. Looking at it from an operational point of view, there has been a shift, as it were, from large single-service stovepiped approaches, where security agencies, armed forces live institutionally in those stovepipes, towards working jointly between forces and agencies, and now increasingly working in what we call an integrated fashion, where actually you're pulling together the sinews of government from across government. You're bringing ministries as well as intelligence agencies and working in flatter structures. So for me, where it's going, I guess, in an information age, is you're looking at intelligence or information-led operations. You're attempting to anticipate. You're attempting to be proactive. Too often, we are reactive. And I think in that there are four components. If you wish to have the capability to try and get on the front foot, there are four components. There is the question of surveillance or monitoring. The possibilities now are endless in terms of surveillance, be it just aerial surveillance, be it electronic, be it communication, be it cyber surveillance, or even be it human surveillance. But unless you actually have a picture of what's going on, you don't know what to do, and you can't anticipate, as it were, the mood swings politically or operationally. To pull that together, there is a huge emphasis on C4SIR systems, putting together systems that can handle the data, because we can now handle masses of data, and we can interrogate it very, very rapidly, and we can display it very quickly, and we can pick up anomalies and threats quite quickly. So the other component I'd emphasize is the fusion of intelligence, not keeping it in separate piles for institutional reasons. Fusing intelligence from all sources, because that actually gives you a grander strategic picture. And then finally, exploitation, because you have that picture. And I don't mean action necessarily. the continuous cycle of developing the intelligence, disrupting networks or issues that may be trying to influence or cause change that you don't wish. Disruption of networks is far better than decisive action because it keeps the intelligence flow and doesn't cut it off. And then occasionally the ability to strike cleanly and surgically so you cause no other political, diplomatic, or whatever damage. For me, the implications, looking at, as it were, the defense market or looking at the way we do our business is the primary issue here is a cultural one, of changing the culture, of changing the institutions, of aspiring to a different form of operating, which would lead to a different line of procurement. Key amongst it is obviously interoperability and communication. Key amongst it, I think, are some clever companies that produce intelligent systems, maybe moving away from the kinetic effect and the heavy metal towards intelligence-based systems. And I think there is a very wide area in the political and diplomatic sector for obviously a lot of internal communication, but a huge amount of external communication and information intelligence sharing. That is a quick resume from me. Thank you.
Thank you, General Wai. I think you gave a good perspective of the integration between defense and security, and the comments around the civil defense also becoming an important part of our duties in defense and security organizations. And he also mentioned about the CBRN threat, which I believe Arslan will have some things to say. He has some experience in that regard. So I'll pass the word to Mr. Shkai, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Minister. I'm always happy to be among all these people, at least one time a year. During these 2 days, we talked a lot about wealth shifting from the West to the South, trade. I will talk about threat. General Aldwin White gave a list of threats of new generation, the third generation threats. I will just pick up one of these threats, which is the CBRN threats: chemical, nuclear, biological, and radiological threats. Why I'm picking up this threat? Because definitely the word, as the word is remapping, reshaping, we are definitely in the need to also to adapt the defense industry, the old defense industry, to face or to tackle these new threats. It is broadly admitted that the CBRN threat is the threat of the third generation. The non-state actors are the new coming within this new world. They are the new comers, and they are the new who will use or misuse this chemical or biological weapons. It is biological and chemical weapons are easy to make, easy to transport, but difficult to detect. And this is the role of the industry. This is the role of the RD, research and development, which has to adapt themselves to these new threats. We are talking about robotics, how to detect all these agents, these chemical and biological agents. This is the responsibility of the industry. This is the responsibility of the scientists. I'm calling since 2 years for Turkey is the leader in trade diplomacy. Turkey could be a leader in science diplomacy regarding these new threats. According to some intelligence reports, non-state actors, or what we commonly name terrorists group, are engaged in a long-term and systematic approach to developing weapons to be used in mass casualties attack. Definitely. This is the 21st century. This is a part of our life. I'm a member of different task forces working on this issue, and believe me, when you listen some stories, some real stories which are not publicized, we are worried for the future. And again, I come back to the industry and come back to the scientists and to the RD. The challenge is how to adapt this industry from the conventional defense industry to the non-conventional defense materials. Of course, the role of the civil society, the role of the NGOs, non-government organizations, the role of the NGIs, non-government individuals, this is a new concept as well, will play a role in the future, because they are playing a role in reshaping the world, in changing the world. We are all living in this transitional period of time. And the civil society, we are all a part of the civil society. Civil society has a responsibility to be a key point or a key element in raising awareness among the public regarding this issue, this threat of the third generation. In conclusion, there is 2 or 3 points that we can raise. First is dialogue. Second is regional cooperation, not only in sharing intelligence, but also in joining efforts to develop a new industry to face this kind of threats. Third point is to bridge the gap between the policymakers and the civil society and all other communities that are engaged in this, which is the industry, but also the scientific community. And to conclude, I will conclude by the word of, again, science diplomacy to move on and to face the new challenges in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shikai. I think speaking from your strong background in the area, you wanted to attract some attention to these new threats that we'll be facing and the responsibility of the industry to find answers for these new threats. I think this was a very good and timely comment to make. So now I will go to my left of the panel, and so far we are doing very well with time. So I will expect the same from this part of the panel. Our next guest is from Qatar, General Mohammed. He will share his views, I suppose, back more on from the military point of view. Please.
Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you allow me, I will just try to speak in Arabic, so I'm just trying to give the summit a bit of international language. And I'm really trying to give the translator a hard time really to translate whatever I'm saying. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أيها الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إنه لشرف عظيم بأني أشارككم هذا المنتدى، وبالأصالة عن نفسي والضباط المرافقين وسعادة الملحق العسكري لدى الجمهورية التركية، وبالإنابة عن سعادة رئيس الأركان اللواء الركن حمد بن علي العطية، والعميد الركن جاسم سيف السليط رئيس لجنة التصنيع. أود أن أشكر كل القائمين على تنفيذ هذا المنتدى وعلى الدعوة وحسن الاستقبال والحفاوة. وأود أن أنوه على العلاقات الطيبة بين الجمهورية التركية ودولة قطر، متمنيا لها التقدم والتطور فيما يخدم مصلحة البلدين. وأود في بداية حديثي أن أعرفكم بنفسي. أنا العميد الركن محمد خليفة الكواري، وأشغل بالإضافة إلى أعمال أخرى منصب نائب رئيس لجنة التصنيع، والتي تم استحداثها قريبا أو تم استحداثها في الآونة الأخيرة. ويرافقني في هذه الزيارة نخبة من الضباط الأكفاء وذوي الخبرة في عدة مجالات. السادة الكرام، سوف أتحدث إليكم عن مواضيع أساسية تخدم تطوير العمل المشترك بين دول المنطقة والعالم بشكل عام. أولاً، أود أن أتحدث عن المعايير الأساسية في اتخاذ القرار لشراء المعدات الدفاعية، ويعتبر هذا الموضوع من المواضيع التي تشغل كلا الجانبين، وأعني بكلا الجانبين البائع والمشتري. فرغم التطور التكنولوجي، فلا يزال الجانب الدفاعي يعمل بالأساليب ذاتها ببيروقراطية حفاظاً على السرية. فمهما تغيرت المعايير فإن الأساليب لن تتغير، تحكمها عدة عوامل فيما يخص المعايير الأساسية للقوات المسلحة القطرية في اتخاذ القرار، فهي على النحو التالي: قدرة المزود على توفير المواد حسب المواعيد المطلوبة والنوعية، الأسعار والتكاليف، الإمكانيات بالاستعانة بالمصادر الخارجية، خدمات ما بعد البيع. هذه معظمها المعايير الأساسية لاختيار، أو بشكل عام المعايير الأساسية للاختيار. ولا تطرق إلى أي معايير سياسية أو اقتصادية قد تؤثر على اتخاذ القرار، وهي كما هي معلومة لديكم تحكمها عدة عوامل والعلاقات القائمة بين البائع والمشتري. كما أود أن أتطرق إلى التعاون الإقليمي في مجال الصناعة الدفاعية، فهذا الموضوع يلاقي اهتماما كبيرا لدينا، وأن مفهوم الإقليمي قد يكون متعدد المفاهيم لدى الكثير منكم. ونحن كإقليم دول مجلس التعاون ودولة قطر عضو في هذا التنظيم، حتم علينا العمل سويا، وبالأخص في مجال الدفاع، والعمل على إيجاد صناعة إقليمية مشتركة. ولهذا الإقليم وفي الآونة الأخيرة تطلعت دولة قطر للعمل في مجال الصناعة الدفاعية، للعمل مع دول في الشرق الأوسط وأوروبا وأفريقيا منفردة أو بالاشتراك مع دول في هذه الأقاليم. أما فيما يخص برامج الشراء المشترك، يحتم الوضع الحالي والمستقبلي لدولة قطر والدول المحيطة العمل المشترك للشراء والاشتراك في برامج مشتركة للشراء، كما حصل في الماضي بين دول مجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربي. أما فيما يخص الاشتراك في تطوير منتجات دفاعية جديدة، تعمل دولة قطر جاهدة على اقتناء فرص جديدة للعمل على إيجاد فرص تطوير منتجات دفاعية جديدة، وذلك من خلال لجنة التصنيع في مجالات عدة دفاعية، ولا تزال تبحث في هذا المجال مع عدة دول منها تركيا ودول أخرى. ونأمل التوصل إلى برامج تطوير دفاعية مع الدول الشقيقة والصديقة، وتعمل حاليا على كافة الأصعدة، وتوفر جميع المقومات للعمل في هذا المجال من إعداد الكادر البشري وتوفير المال اللازم لذلك. ونعمل حاليا على تأسيس مركز أبحاث واختراعات تطوير لمواكبة هذه المتطلبات، كما نعمل على الاشتراك مع المؤسسات التعليمية الحالية والتي تشكل أساس التعليم في دولة قطر، وبالاشتراك في برامج لتطوير معدات الدفاع المستقبلية منها المحلية والخارجية. ويشكل هذا الوضع أهمية نتطلع لترسيخها جديا لخدمة أهداف لجنة التصنيع. وأشكركم سيدي.
Thank you very much, General Kouari. I think you made some very good points on what are the criteria for cooperation in defense industry. I took notes about mutual trust, having mutual interest between the countries, and definitely confidentiality. And Qatar is very open for this type of cooperation. And as he mentioned, we have some good projects together. Next speaker is General Al-Kafas from Egypt. He is also coming from the field. He is coming from an engineering degree in mechanical branch, and he is now a consultant to the Egyptian Armament Authority, so he has a lot of experience in the field. So please, General Kafas.
I would like to convey to you the best wishes from the General Commander of the Egyptian Armed Force, the Ministry of Defense and Military Production. I would like to present to you his great respect for your vulnerable meeting. Turkey and Egypt are the largest two countries in the Eastern Mediterranean. They also have the largest armed force in the region. With their peaceful cooperation, they can together help establishing and maintaining peace in the Middle East. We hope getting a great result to serve the region benefits under the increasing challenges which face our nations. We take this opportunity to share with you some information about our advanced military production, which has a great capability through more than 35 companies, military production factories related to National Organization for Military Production and Industrialization Arab Organization, whether production or co-production. We are ready to carry on co-production programs for weapons, equipment, vehicles, and also systems. Also, we are ready to share research and development fields. Egypt can host many Turkish military industrial production plants. Hundreds of Turkish industrialization investors choose Egypt as their second home for their factories and investment. Finally, we hope much improvement for the benefit of both of our nations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, General Kafas. As you mentioned, Egypt has a very strong defense industry. I visited personally some of those facilities, and there are very good capabilities in Egypt. And again, I think we will continue to develop our good cooperation. And Egypt is going through an important transition as a country. We wish that, you know, it becomes a very prosperous and stable country in the region. As you mentioned, one of the two large countries in Eastern Mediterranean, we have very important roles. And as our last speaker, somebody from the north, from Russia.
Yes.
And somebody with a very academic background, Professor Sotnichenko will share his views on this topic, and he has, as I read his biography, also a background in Ottoman history. So please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I wrote a very shared paper and made a presentation, but I have about 5 minutes. I'll try to be very short. My presentation will be quite academic and very theoretical. I teach in St. Petersburg State University politology and geopolitical studies, and also Middle East, and Turkey is my specialty. And so I wanted to say that Turkish policy depends on its geopolitical situation, and Turkish economy also depends on its policy and foreign policy. And what is Turkish position according to the traditional geopolitical theory? That Turkey is situated in the center of Eurasia, on the border. It is a border state between the traditional Eurasian spaces like Russia, Heartland on the terms of Halford Mackinder, and Rimland, the crescent territories, Europe and Asia. And according to the theories of American geopoliticians of 20th century, for example, Nicholas Spikeman, Turkey is really the main contact zone of Eurasia, and it is like the country bridge which connects Asia, Europe, and Russia with the world. And so, and even the now modern specialist in geopolitical studies, Samuel Huntington, also he puts Turkey on the border between the civilizational superspaces. And what are the features of Turkish position? It have to be as a bridge, it have to be neutral, it have to be independent. According to the history of 19th and 20th century, it have to be the aim of Turkey not to be dependent of one or another superpower. I have a table with a comparison of different historical periods of Turkey. The Turkish economical state and social development, when it is neutral, its policy is independent and maneuvering between superpowers, and when its policy follows one or another global power. For example, Tanzimat period or the First World War or a Cold War, we see instability, financial problems. Okay, we can compare, for example, the situation of 1875, the bankruptcy, and the crisis of 2001. Also inflation and many other problems. And in comparison, the independent policy, the policy of neutrality, the policy of Atatürk, for example, we can compare with persons could be understood as his enemies, with Abdul Hamid, Sultan Abdul Hamid II, and even the policy of Erdogan, the policy of the last 10 years. It was the policy of independence and maneuvering between the policy of superpowers. And we see that it was the time of stability, of the development of economy without any great crises. So in 2002 we see that the new political elite came to power in Turkey, and the new foreign policy, zero problems policy, was established in Turkey, and really the last 10 years very good relations were established with Greece, Iraq, Iran, Syria, and even there was an attempt to establish the relations with Armenia and also with Russia, because we can compare the situation of 1999, where our economical relations were not more than $1 billion. Now it is 3,000% more. And it is a very good example. So the result of this policy, we all know the statistics, the export of Turkey growth more than 500% for 10 years. Also GDP growth rate 8% a year, and totally in 10 years more than 3.5%. times. And also we know the rate of inflation, and Turkey is a member of G20 and so on and so on. But now Russian politologists they wrote articles that Turkey rejects from the policy of zero problems, and I can say that according to the history we'll see the downshift of economical and social development of Turkey. And really, unfortunately, the last year Turkey rejects from its policy, and we'll see the problems in economics. And our business, Russian business, also ask the academicians, for example, what to do, what we have to wait from Turkish economical development. Do we have to find new contracts, for example, in Turkey, and will the development of Turkey in the next 2-5 years will be instability or not, according to this new shift of its foreign policy? No, I see that the only alternative to the zero problems policy is the old policy of 80s. If I remember, it was Turkey is surrounded by 3 seas and 4 enemies, and we know the result of this policy. It was not good for Turkey and for Eurasia at all. And I really can say that according to the main topic of our panel, in Russia now we really invest much money to the military industry, and so if I know the next year it will be about $1 billion, and so the minister of our military industry is Rogozin now. He was the Russian representative in NATO in Brussels, and he is very energetic, very full of energy, and so really I think that we have really great prospects for the for cooperation between Russia and Turkey in this field, for example. I have a friend, he's the director of Russian Star Town, so the space training center near Moscow. And I know that no one Turkish citizen was in space before. And I think that, for example, our cooperation can go this way, for example, and many, many other ways. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sotnichenko. I think speaking from your strong background of Turkish history, you made some very good comments to the nature of Turkey as a bridge, as a border between civilizations, and therefore you had a strong argument towards Turkey is maintaining an independent policy, which in your view brings prosperity. It's an interesting thesis that I would very much love to discuss with you more. So that, I think, concludes the first round of comments by our panel members. If there is anyone who wants to add further to the discussion, I can ask our panelists, or otherwise we can see if there are any questions, maybe, from the audience. There is one question here. And time-wise, I think I am doing very well. So, sir. Okay. The mic is not working. Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
We have followed the intervention of the speakers, very interesting. And there was some talk about bilateral cooperation. Could you have an idea if there is any perspectives for regional cooperation in the security field?
That's a very good question. I don't know if there is anybody who wants to take that question. Arslan, I think you may have some answers for this.
May I return the question to the gentleman? What do you mean by regional cooperation? You mean Middle East, North Africa, and the whole region? I think one of the issues that I skipped out from my notes is the this cooperation. I think time is coming to set up a real dialogue and real cooperation in terms of security, even in terms of space security, border security, not only to face all these illegal immigrants, but also to face the challenge of the threats that we are facing in our region. I mean, in my country, we are facing real threats connected to this issue that I raised before and that some of the panelists raised. I think the cooperation is not so, the regional cooperation in terms of security is not so deep and not so strong as it has to be.
Yeah. No, I think I can also share that view and recognize the validity of the question at least. I also believe there is a lack of regional framework for security cooperation, but I think this will take beyond the time allotted for this panel to find an answer, but we take the question as a very good one. Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm told maybe one more, and then we will finish the panel. Yes. And if you can introduce yourself.
My name is Abdullah Arslan. I'm actually representing the Aselsan company, which is very well known to most of you. I would like to extend my regards to all speakers for their wonderful speeches, of whom some of our partners, strong supporters in the region. I would like to ask a general question, not related to the company actually. As the Turkish defense industry, in the past years, we seem to have a great rising urge to create a cooperation with the countries in the region by means of defense industry. And our eagerness and willingness in this perspective is increasing with the lead of Undersecretary of the Turkish Ministry of National Defense. So I would like to ask, without directing the question to somebody, what are your expectations and what are your critics to Turkish defense industry in this process? Thank you.
Okay, I know somebody who can answer this. Zaif, please.
Actually, I've been dealing personally with many Turkish companies, and my experience with the Turkish companies comparing to other maybe Europeans or American companies, I can give you I share this experience with you. I see Turkish companies are very keen to do business, especially in the UAE. This is how I see it. And I see you participating in all the major defense shows. And it's always red and big. You can see it everywhere. You cannot, go to a defense show without noticing the Turkish pavilion and the variety of the companies, large, medium, and small. And I think you're doing very well with promoting small businesses and medium and trying to bring them up to a larger companies. But I see maybe the issue that I've seen is the resources issue. For example, when you deal with US or European companies, they have many resources. I'm talking about human resources. So if you ask about something, they always try to act fast because they have the resources and they can do multiple projects at the same time. But if you compare to the Turkish company, they like to do something, one by one, because they want to make sure that they satisfy your need. They want to make sure they deliver the quality that you're expecting and make sure that there is no misunderstanding. And they are doing it very well. and they're paying, attention to the little details and making sure they are really close and always visiting you to make sure that the progress is happening. And you see the attention coming all the way from the top, from their board, from the CEO, second man or third man. They are involved in the deal. When you look at it from a different perspective, dealing with international companies in Europe and US, maybe you will see the production guy or the operation people, and they try to deal with you because they have so many different resources. This is maybe what I see. But I think the more business they're doing internationally, the more they'll get used to that resources. On the other hand, I see dealing with Turkish companies, especially coming from UAE, it's easier for for example, staff to bring them here for training. It's easier for dialogue. It's easier to live here and spend, a year or two. I have some programs internationally where I sent some UAE young people for a year and a half. And sometimes it's difficult for them to be in US or, for example, Germany or different country. But I think it's easier to bring them here. There are so many in common things for them. This is just in the nutshell, but I can compare the quality to international companies, and I think you're going in the right direction, and we see that we're going to do so many things together.
Thank you very much, Mr. El-Ajuri. I think this was a very candid response to the question. I'd like to thank all of our panelists. They took really an important share of their time to come here. They're all very good friends of Turkey. So I invite a strong applause for all of them for being part of the panel, and we close the panel. Thank you. Thank you.
Sayın Müsteşarım, bu önemli panel nedeniyle size ve değerli katılımcılara teşekkürlerimizi sunuyoruz ve Yüksek İstişare Kurulu Eş Başkanımız Sayın Ali Coşkun'dan hem size hem de bütün katılımcılara bu armağanlarımızı, plaketlerimizi sunuyoruz. Önce sizden başlıyoruz efendim. This is for Aslan Çuki. Evet. Sen bana hemen ikincisini getir. Mr. Aldmin White. Mr. Saif Muhammed Ali Haceri. Mr. Datuk Dr. Abdülatif bin Ahmet. General Muhammed Khalifa Al-Kavari. Associate Professor Dr. Alexander Sotnichenko. And General Hüseyin Ahmet Mohammed El-Kafas. Evet, tarım paneliyle hemen devam ediyoruz. Bu panelde ilk onur konuşmacımız Suudi Arabistan Tarım Bakanı Doktor Fahad bin Abdurrahman bin Süleyman Balgurayn. Please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. a presentation is a way that a person would convey his thoughts. And I really thought very hardly which language should I speak in. From a nationalistic point of view, I should speak in Arabic. But I know if I spoke in Arabic, only a few people will understand me. And I thought, I wish I could speak in Turkish, but I know I cannot speak Turkish. So that left only English. So I hope you bear with me if I make any mistakes. First of all, it pleases me to be one of the keynote speakers in this panel of the International Cooperation Platform, which discusses the momentous and vital subject of the increasing importance of water, food, and agriculture within the next 10 years. Would the tension rise with the tide? I would like first to express my thanks and appreciation to ICP for organizing and hosting this important meeting and for inviting me to deliver an opening speech to this distinguished gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, the three items of water, food, and agriculture are intimately interrelated and have been, and indeed always will be, of vital importance for human life, survival, welfare, and prosperity. Water and food are basic human needs. They are indispensable not only to life, but also to healthy and productive existence, which is prerequisite for progress and welfare of social being, as well as global economic and political stability. Both food and water require strict balanced regime and disciplines in their production and consumption, since too little of them is a problem and too much of them is also a problem. Generally, available global water resources are sufficient to meet human needs. However, the distribution is uneven among countries and regions. 1.2 billion people live in areas of water scarcity, and FAO is projecting this number to increase to 3 billion by 2050. It is worth mentioning here that the Near East and North Africa region is among the most water-scarce regions of the world. Global agriculture accounts on average to 70% of freshwater withdrawal, which reaches between 80 to 90% in developing countries. 20% goes to domestic services, to domestic and services use, and 10% to industry. These sectors are competing with agriculture for water, and their demand is rising rapidly. Per capita water consumption is declining, and lack of access to clean drinking water and sanitation are causing millions of untimely deaths around the world. Global water resources are dwindling due to misuse and overdraft withdrawal of surface and groundwater faster than replenishing rates. It is reported that demand for water is outstripping supply in major river basins, and 1/4 of world population is living in areas where groundwater is being depleted. The climate change and water pollution are worsening the water situation. The world has continued to make protracted and uneven progress towards improved food security and nutrition. In this respect, due to lack of adequate progress in many developing countries, the absolute number of the undernourished persons is far above the UN target aiming to reduce chronically undernourished by 50% by 2015, which is only 2 years away. FAO is indicating that this target could only be achieved by the year 2030. Food and water demands are rising due to population increase, expansion and urbanization, rising incomes, and expanding middle class in many developing countries, particularly in the so-called emerging economies. According to United Nations Medium Range Projection, the global population annual growth rates are likely to keep slowing down over the next decade, decreasing from 1.7% in this decade to 1.2% in the next decade and to 1% during the period 2030 to 2050. However, in absolute numbers, the world population will increase considerably from 6.97 billion in 2012 to 7.8 billion in 2022 and 9.3 billion in 2050. Moreover, sizable proportion of the population in many developing countries, particularly in emerging economies, will enjoy high and increasing per capita income. This growing affluence would lead not only to expansion of food demand, but also to changes in consumption patterns of the expanding middle class, which will have high propensity to substitute starchy food by the high-value protein food of meat, dairy, and poultry products. In this respect, most of these livestock products will continue to be produced under intensive methods based on cereals and oilseed as feed for livestock. This livestock feed will consequently compete with direct human food. Another fundamental structure in the food demand will be the rising demand for biofuel, which is dependent for its feedstock on food items. The demand for biofuel is expected to rise rapidly in the future due to increase in fossil energy prices and the growing concern on the impact of global warming and greenhouse gas emission. The answer to the burning question about the ability of the agriculture system to feed future rising world population under dwindling water and land resources has been attempted by a number of individuals and organizations, including Food and Agriculture Organization, the jointly FAO and OECD, International Food Policy Research Institute, and the World Bank. These organizations have made conditional forecasts emphasizing improved water efficiency and food productivity while mitigating and adapting to climate change. FAO projections indicate that world production has to increase by 60% to meet the food demand of 9.3 billion people in 2050. In addition to non-food use demand relating to biofuel and livestock feed. 80% of the future increase in production will come from increased productivity and only 20% from land expansion.